Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Sean P. Diddy Combs court hearing going on in a few minutes, folks. This is a live shot outside of the federal courthouse, Manhattan, New York. P. Diddy Combs back in court today, 12/18/2024. Come on in, folks. You see police out there. Probably P. Diddy's family will be coming and arriving to the courthouse very shortly. It'll be interesting to see if the family shows and who within the family arrives to court. P. Diddy facing racketeering and sex trafficking federal charges. Interesting that there is a large police presence outside of the federal courthouse, 500 Pearl Street, New York. Extensive coverage of the P. Diddy federal case, the drama centered around P. Diddy, the lawsuits, racks of lawsuits. He's just been sued again, centered around P. Diddy. We're also going to talk a little bit about Jay-Z, the rapper Jay-Z, who was name dropped recently in a lawsuit that was filed back in October. Jay-Z's name is now involved. He's a co-defendant in a lawsuit with P. Diddy. Though Jay-Z is fighting it, Jay-Z hired the attorney that represented Alec Baldwin, believe it or not, and he actually had a press conference yesterday that we were going to talk about. Maybe once this hearing here concludes, then we will talk about that. We'll talk about that. But yeah, this is a case that we've been covering since P. Diddy's indictment. So today's hearing, it appears to be focused on evidence and discovery. Evidence and discovery. As some of you might or might not know, as of now, P. Diddy is scheduled to go on trial in May. I do think that this will be pushed back, considering the witness tampering and obstruction allegations. The prosecutors are claiming P. Diddy, as he sits in the special housing unit at the Metropolitan Detention Center, they're accusing him of witness intimidation and obstruction and using other inmates' PIN numbers to make calls to try to influence potential witnesses, right? So I do think down the line, there could be possibly a superseding indictment against P. Diddy, not only on him, but the charges itself, as we discussed, racketeering charges, sex trafficking. In order to do racketeering, you have to do that crime with other participants. So it could be possible other defendants get name dropped by the prosecutors. So what this is over over the evidence. What I'm hearing is this hearing is focused on a number of issues, including evidence presented and discovery. The prosecutors are supposed to hand over all evidence to P. Diddy's defense by December 31st. But they also claim that more material is coming in, like, and I'm reading this, data and electronic devices and subpoenaed records. The defense attorneys might, in this hearing, also claim that the prosecutors are leaking things to the media. What things to the media? Things that are prejudicial towards their client. This issue will probably also be addressed inside the courtroom today. I like to see who arrives. Thus far, these hearings that P. Diddy tried to previously get bail bond. They laid out a PowerPoint proposal, including house arrest, and they're monitored by their own security. The judge didn't rule that day. That third time is a charm bond hearing, right? Ultimately came with a written ruling denying his bond. I do expect P. Diddy in the future to also ask for additional bond again based off new circumstances. I predict that they will claim that his mental and health is deteriorating while he sits in the solitary confinement cell special housing unit, the same area where Epstein was in. I do expect that type of argument, and I do expect bond to be asked once again. Not this time, though. This is dealing with evidence and discovery. Earlier in the week, the judge denied the defense's request for a full hearing, but made it clear there will be consequences if proof of leaks surface. And we're talking about leaks. Leaks. The defense is claiming that prosecutors are leaking evidence to the media. Now, that will be interesting. What would happen at that point if it's true that information or documents or exhibits or whatnot is released? I don't know if there'll be repercussions, ramifications, and or the prosecutors getting censored, kicked off the case. Would it lead to the case being dismissed? I don't think it would be that egregious, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows? As we discussed, Magnolia and I discussed, the lawyer representing P. Diddy, his wife, is now representing Luigi Mangio. So it's pretty rocking and rolling out there. You know, you see the officers checking their clocks. This is more police presence than I've seen, which is interesting. You could see people in the background there, cameras ready for the court hearing, or cameras ready to catch whoever comes in, whoever attends. So far, the only people that I've seen that have been attending the court hearing for P. Diddy is his family, right? His children. I have not seen yet any celebrity or public official or popular social media personality publicly coming to these hearings supporting Diddy, which is very telling, to say the least. Diddy doesn't seem like he's getting public support in the celebrity sphere, right? I think many of these celebrities that had prior dealings with Diddy are distancing themselves, right? They're worried. They're worried, it seems, that they could be next on these Diddy tapes or seen at these Diddy's parties, right? Because we keep hearing about Diddy parties, Diddy parties, freak-offs. Ain't no party like a Diddy party, as LeBron James once said. And I think every one of these celebrities are scattering, worried, wondering if they will be next. Notice, all the people that Diddy was partying with, none of them is coming out and publicly supports Diddy. I don't see it at all. I don't see it at all. What does that tell you? So, yeah, that is what the court pretty much is centered around today. Evidence. Combs faces a mounting list of civil lawsuits. A singer named Cassandra Cassie Ventura had pretty much opened up the can of worms. Cassie opened up the can of worms earlier in the year. Filed a lawsuit accusing Diddy of the most egregious things you could possibly think of: sex trafficking, human trafficking, sexual battery, sexual assault, violence. Where Diddy quickly settled. He quickly settled. Once he settled, folks, people are like, whoa, it's not going to go well for Diddy. You're settling really quick. The sharks are going to come out. They're all going to come out of the woodwork. The opportunists and victims. And a combination of both. And since then, there has been, I don't know the total. Actually, honestly, I don't know how many lawsuits have now been filed against Diddy. But what media is reporting, that there are 120 people that are currently suing P. Diddy for egregious things. That is crazy, folks. 120 people are suing P. Diddy. And every week, it seems like a new lawsuit has been dropped. every week it seems like more victims have been coming out. The lead attorney of these victims, his name is Tony Busby. Tony Busby. And it seems like Busby has been apparently reaching out to other celebrities, sending demand letters. Jay-Z falls under that demand letter. One of them. Jay-Z received some sort of demand letter from, or settlement offer, or something from Busby, which we really don't know details about, where Jay-Z then filed a complaint against Busby for that, where Busby responded by name dropping Jay-Z as a defendant on one of these prior lawsuits. Very egregious stuff. So now Jay-Z is wrapped up in this mix. As we discussed on previous lives, we're talking about an incident that happened during the MTV VMAs in 2020. Radio City Music Hall in New York City. P. Diddy had a bunch of parties, right? Big party after the VMAs. Lots of celebrities there, including J-Lo. J-Lo was there. J-Lo was there. And they're accused of doing the most egregious thing you could possibly think of to a minor, a very young minor. Magnolia corrected me by saying Cassie's lawsuit was actually November 2023. That time flies. Okay, someone has arrived. Someone has arrived. Who has arrived? Someone is arriving to the court, for sure. Oh, here we go. P. Diddy's family, for sure. They've arrived before in the same type of black SUVs as we've covered this hearing. Yeah, P. Diddy's family are in court. Who is going to come out? I suspect it's his family. We'll see. We'll see. Diddy's family has arrived, it looks like. Maybe it's his lawyers. I don't know. They turned the camera away. Maybe it's false alarm, too. Because some of these media people, look at the media people. False alarm. False alarm. False alarm. They do that sometimes, believe it or not. Somebody rolls up to a courthouse in a like a similar type of vehicle, and all the media runs, and it ends up being no one related to the case. Probably an Uber. That's what people said. Probably an Uber. This is the type of things I like doing too outside the courthouse. Waiting for the defendants to arrive. There's nothing better. Well, P. Diddy's in court, or he's already locked up, but his family. But there's nothing better in gonzo journalism or true crime journalism than having a defendant actually be out on bond and being able to intercept and communicate with that defendant as they leave and come to the courthouse. That is the best thing in the world. And you know me, JLR Investigates, not scared to answer the tough questions. Right to their face. Right to their face. Ask the tough questions. So yeah, we're waiting for the family of Diddy to arrive. We'll see what happens here. If they arrive, they might not arrive. They might not arrive. This might be a little bit different than the bail hearings, right? The family's going to arrive at bail hearings, and they should. When you are asking for bail, bond, you are trying to convince a judge that you should be trusted while being released on the streets. Lawyers, when they ask for bond for their client and have hearings about bonds, they usually bring the defendant's family into the court so the judge can see family members showing strong community ties, strong family establishments, right? With P. Diddy, his family was brought into court, his children. I think the judge took things under advisement, but ultimately ruled no bond. And I do think, considering that P. Diddy he's basically facing a life sentence for sure. The numbers will be, well, wait till you see the federal sentencing guidelines if this guy gets convicted, which I believe so. The feds have a 97% conviction rate. The odds are huge against P. Diddy. We ourselves probably have a better chance of getting struck by lightning twice than P. Diddy getting acquitted by the feds. These numbers for P. Diddy, based off what the prosecution is claiming, the most egregious things, literally, I've heard every single crime in the book that prosecutors are accusing P. Diddy of. Every single crime in the book, short of murder. I think it was the right call for the judge to deny his bond. I know that P. Diddy's defense was trying to use the Abercrombie and Finch, and if I don't say that company, you know what I'm talking about. The other guy who got released on $10 million bond, they were trying to use him by saying, well, you know, he did stuff worse than my client. Why should my client have a $50,000 or $50 million bond? Ultimately, the judge ruled against Diddy. I feel Diddy, both crimes are egregious, by the way. I think Diddy is charged with the most egregious crimes. I believe P. Diddy is a danger to the public, a danger to the community. He has the power and influence to make witnesses disappear. I really believe that. And I believe if he was released, that would have happened. He would try to convince and manipulate and con and bamboozle the witnesses into changing their testimony and or not testify or pluck them off. And you know what pluck off means. Pluck them off. So it's the right call. P. Diddy, we'll see and hear and listen to today. There are journalists that will be attending this court hearing. We won't have cameras inside. This is outside. But I'm sure we'll hear some more details and allegations and new stuff that P. Diddy is accused of doing. Possibly more witness tampering, possibly stealing more other inmates' PIN numbers, inmates' phone cards. I'm sure the BOP, Bureau of Prisons, who runs the Metropolitan Detention Center, I'm sure they're watching him to a T. I personally think, and this is known, when P. Diddy is in solitary confinement. He's in the special housing units of one of the top floors of the Metropolitan Detention Center. It might be the top floor. Most of the cities around the country, federal detention centers are in the cities. They're usually high-rise buildings. The top of the buildings are where the most violent, dangerous, administrative criminals are being held. He's not in the general population. I suspect that the government is bugging his cell and having listening devices in the air vents and or under his bed. I suspect, and they have done that. They have done that for criminals that are defiant and criminals that want to challenge their case. And they can legally do that. I believe that the feds are watching every single move and every single thing that P. Diddy's doing. You have zero expectation of privacy while you're in a prison cell. They can monitor your phone calls. They can film you if they want. The only thing they can't do, I believe, is film you when you're taking a shower. Things like that, right? Really privacy type stuff. But I do believe that people are listening to him, and they know, and the feds know who he's coordinating with, who he's communicating with. They know. They know. Now, we're talking about a guy that was the most influential hip-hop artist out there. Not the most powerful. I don't think he was influential. Let me reword this. He's one of the most powerful hip-hop artists out there. One of the wealthiest. There's only a few of them out there, and you know those few. him, his co-defendant in a civil case, Jay-Z, Dr. Dre, might be a few others. That's it. These are, as P. Diddy said in these viral videos, the black billionaire club, the black billionaire. So, he's worth a lot. He has power. He's been getting away with this stuff for decades, literally 2 decades. But now reality check, and imagine it's a complete cultural shock where he's literally powerless in that jail cell. He might think he can influence people, and he probably tried, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And they are listening, regardless if he has his phone account, other inmates' phone accounts, a cell phone snuck in there, whatever. They're listening. And the people that he's communicating with to get things done on witnesses or witnesses that he's communicating with, the feds are probably listening on their conversations, wiretapping them, listening. And they're gathering a bunch of evidence against Diddy that's only going to nail him even more. If Diddy gets convicted, he will be spending the rest of his life, natural life, in prison. For sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And he's been defiant thus far. Now, the feds do flip people. Even if you're at the top of the totem pole, they will flip kingpins of mobs, kingpins of drug dealers, and you could call P. Diddy a racketeering kingpin. His racketeering charges are very seriously. The feds don't indict RICO cases very often. And when they do, you're talking about major, powerful organizations, Hell's Angels, mafia gangs, major drug dealing type gangs. RICO. And that's what he's charged with. RICO. He's charged with the RICO. All right, Magnolia, come in the chat for a second. I got to grab something. I got a package that came. Come on in the chat and we can talk. I'm going to bring Magnolia up in the chat anyway to get Magnolia's take as we wait for whatever's going to happen here today, if anything's happened. We've been live streaming the last couple hearings that were outside. Hello, Magnolia.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Another court hearing. You've been pretty spot on, I say, with the assessment of just the Diddy case, Jay-Z. We even discussed LeBron James. Anything you would like to share?
Yeah, I put on the screen the purpose of today's hearing because a lot of people kept asking what they're planning today. This is not another bail hearing. In fact, those requests have been withdrawn from the defense side. So it's expected that he will remain in prison until his trial. It's scheduled for May right now, but JLR doesn't think it's going to happen in May. I do, but we'll see.
I get delivery service to the door.
Yeah, I was just saying that you don't believe the trial's actually going to happen in May.
No, absolutely not. It's too soon. These things are very complex. RICO trials and RICO cases are mountains and mountains of evidence. And for his attorney, think about this, folks. Prosecutors are on track to hand over evidence by the new year. They have a December 31st deadline to hand over this discovery and evidence. That means P. Diddy, and we're talking about volumes. We don't know to the extent, but it's not a rinky-dink small stuff. We're just probably talking about years of conduct, FBI 302s and 302s or with witness statements. We're just talking about mountains of evidence. There's no way his attorneys can go through that in just a few months to be prepared for a May trial. Impossible. Impossible. Unless they want a speedy trial to get this over with.
Yeah, they're also saying that they plan to have all the evidence turned over by December 31st, but there's still electronic data coming in, and also
Yes,
from different subpoenas that they put out there to subpoena records. Some of that's still coming in. So it sounds like they expect to continue to receive evidence for a while.
yes, absolutely. And then once you get that, you're just gonna have to go through it. It's just it's too short time. You're gonna do that by what? Today's the 18th, so they got to. Oh my gosh, it's almost Christmas. I can't believe that it's the 18th. We're 7 days away from Christmas, folks. So he has to hand all that stuff, or the prosecutor has to hand this all over by the 31st. So then you have January, February, March, April for a beginning May trial. 4 months? Come on. No way. No way. And that's on top of possibly a superseding indictment, which I feel is coming. I mean, the feds pretty much said that they're going to indict him for witness tampering. They're accusing him of witness tampering. Why not indict? Why would you accuse somebody of witness tampering without the indictment when you have pretty much him nailed? Fly Girl, thank you. Fly Girl 5517 gifted a membership. One lucky member is a new member of the JLR Army. Yeah, Magnolia, to be accused of witness tampering and using, the jail cell to facilitate, to influence witnesses in the jail cell with a phone, other people's PIN numbers and stuff like that, that's a chargeable offense.
Yeah.
And it will be. So if you supersede them, it's just going to make it more for the you supersede them in February or March. That means the lawyers have to get all the new evidence on that. It's going to be pushed.
Yeah, one other thing, the defense attorneys for Diddy are trying to say that federal law enforcement has been sharing or leaking information with the media. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they're alleging.
Yeah, so we'll probably get a bunch of grievances that is lawyers claim today that the prosecutors are doing. But what exactly leaking?
Well, they wanted a full hearing about that issue, and the judge said no. So I'm sure they'll still bring it up today, though.
Oh, by the way, the Yahoo Entertainment puts out Diddy's Christmas plans revealed as he prepares for holiday in jail. This will be P. Diddy's first Christmas behind bars.
So one motion that they're planning to talk about today is whether or not names of the victims will be made public. So that's on the agenda today.
Names of the victims. Yeah, I'd like to hear the victims. See, you got to be very careful with that because, P. Diddy sympathizers or P. Diddy himself, if that stuff gets out there and stuff like that, there could be people that will go heckle them, harass them, trying to influence them. P. Diddy does probably have support or goons not that are out there that are publicly supported, but he has his crew.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure he already knows that anyway through he knows who his victims are. The defendant knows who his own victims are, right?
Yeah, he has lists of them.
He's list them. He has list them. So there's also another report. Let me just jump to Jay-Z real quick while we're waiting to see what happens here. I don't know what's going to happen here. We've been streaming these last 2 court hearings outside. There's no cameras in the courtroom, by the way. which I feel like they should. Jay-Z's attorney distanced rapper from Sean P. Diddy Combs. Jay-Z's attorney, Alex Spiro, who represented Alec Baldwin, told reporters that the rap mogul is upset about the allegations. Jay-Z's fighting back against the allegations against him. Spiro told reporters that Carter did not rape a child and presented slideshow evidence, he said, shows alleged holes in the Carter's accuser's story.
Yeah, apparently she got a couple details incorrect about that night. One of them was she mentioned someone in the complaint that she spoke to at that party, but the person that she said it was actually not there that weekend. He was in New York at the time, or he was in a different city than where this alleged incident occurred. So they're trying to pick apart her story
Jay-Z's attorney, Alex Spiro,
and pointing out like certain inconsistencies like the one I just said. So they're just trying to discredit her, which is, typical.
Yeah, the lawyer, Jay-Z's lawyer, actually gave a very PowerPoint type press con. We could play that in a bit.
Yeah.
A briefing saying that the accuser is not credible. Yeah. It's interesting that he hired Alec Baldwin's attorney, and this is the same attorney that got Alec Baldwin a mistrial in the middle of a court hearing. Something I've never seen before in my life, in the middle of a court hearing. So Jay-Z hired a good attorney there. He's good.
Oh, yeah. Alex Spiro is probably one of the best we've seen as far as defense attorneys in America. I can't think of any better. Can you?
No.
I mean, he got Alec Baldwin's entire case thrown out because of bullets that didn't have anything to do with the crime scene. So that was pretty crazy.
A prison consultant said P. Diddy for the holidays, he'll be allowed to meet with loved ones for a maximum of 30 minutes. Four visitors per inmate. 4 visitors per inmate. So P. Diddy on Christmas, he's going to be behind bars. This is not a bail hearing. Unless a miracle happens between now and Christmas, P. Diddy will be behind bars on Christmas. So if he wants family to visit him on Christmas, he gets one 30-minute visit for family members. And he could talk to his family on the phone on his own PIN number for 15 minutes. They say at the, what we got? Family arriving, lawyers, witnesses, victims, celebrities. Who do we got? Somebody's arrived. Someone is arriving. Who do we got? Dun, dun, dun. Dude, they give these P. Diddy's family like red carpet treatment. Most defendants' families don't get this luxury here. You see the cameras across the street too. They're all taking pictures. This is affiliated with Diddy for sure. 2:00. What do we got? Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. It's children. It's his children. See 3, 2. His children
Yes,
have a right.
Cat, they do.
Yep, his children have arrived. And you see how he's walking? The one with the yellow? He's like strutting. He's doing that strut walk. He knows all cameras are on him. So does anyone in the chat feel bad for Diddy's children? Honest question. Yes, no. Does anyone in the chat feel sorry for his children that they have to go through this?
I
No, I'm
feel
saying.
sorry that I feel sorry for them that he's their dad.
We get mostly no's. We got some yes. We got mostly no's though in the chat. I mean, they've probably been provided anything and everything they want in life, right? Yeah, but his children haven't been in the limelight for anything bad, have they? His own children? Any of them? Like any scandals or anything going on with his children? Bad reputation, doing things, seen on camera, doing any of them?
Well, other than them trying to help him poison the jury pool on Instagram, no.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I've heard that. I've heard that, they're trying to go to social media personalities to try to influence them to do favorable coverage of P. Diddy, like social media influencers, and they're paying people a visit. Did you hear about that? Like P. Diddy
No.
sending his PIs to certain social media influencers' homes to try to get them to
Oh, actually, yeah, I do remember hearing about that.
talk favorably. Sometimes that's a tactic that it seems like it's a growing trend. These defendants in these high profile cases try to reach out to influencers online to try to influence them to do favorable coverage of the defendant. So they're not special. They have to go through metal detectors. They don't get that red carpet treatment where they have to avoid the metal detectors. This isn't a New York club where they can go around the metal detectors. They have to go be just like everyone else. Empty your pockets, but do it slow. Empty your pockets, but do it slow. Put it on the table there. Deep, 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 deep. Metal detector. Put your hands up.
Yeah, what Moni said is his oldest is accused of doing the same as his father. I have heard some speculation about his son. Yeah.
Which one?
His son named King, and Miss Raspberry has some extra info I just put on the screen. Yeah, so his son sort of seems like a chip off the old block, so to speak. Now the younger kids, I don't know, but his son is definitely similar to Diddy.
So his son was sued. I'm looking at it now. His son was sued in April of 2024 for SAing on a family yacht.
Yeah.
During a family holiday, welcome Christmas holiday, St. Martin in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
An individual, Grace Omarcaigh, Omarcaigh says Christian King Combs physically and sexually assaulted her, according to a lawsuit filed in Los Angeles. Well, that's interesting. Something that happened in 2022. As a result of the attack, the victim says her long-time romantic relationship broke down and that she has developed an eating disorder and suffers from seizures. Well, that's interesting. King Combs. Yeah, so there is a scandal. with King. So was King one of the people that arrived today? Was he the one in yellow?
I think he may have been the one of the first ones that got out of the car.
Interesting. People are saying like father, like son. Got a lot of opinions on this case, you know.
And his son, he also has a son, Christian, who's got scandals. Yeah, so unfortunately, his kids grew up with him as a father and probably never developed right from wrong the way most kids do. They probably were raised to believe they could do whatever they want. They're entitled to have anything or anyone they want. They were probably raised with that mindset. And it seems like his sons have already gone down his same path. And they're more than willing to do his bidding.
Yeah, well, they also might be a little worried that they're going down too. How old is King? How old's King? Do you know?
I don't.
Looks like just the kids were there.
And he's got the twin teenage girls. I think they're 17. If people remember the last hearing we saw, they came in wearing matching white fur outfits.
So, I don't know what's going to go on here. I'm sure the hearing's going to go on for about an hour. I mean, these federal, yeah, I mean, the last time we had a bond hearing, it went on for a few hours, didn't it?
The son is 26, people are saying.
26. Now, let's shift to a little talk about Jay-Z a minute, right? Because Jay-Z is now involved. He's in this web. He's entangled in this. The name was dropped. Big breaking news last week with Jay-Z listed as a defendant, claiming that, him and Diddy together did the most egregious thing to a minor child at an after party of the VMAs. But Jay-Z's firing back, right? He's saying what? Extortion? Or the lawyer is trying to bully him? What words did he use, Magnolia?
Against who?
Jay-Z's accusing Tony Busby, of a shakedown, right? Extortion, blackmail.
Yeah.
Blackmail.
Uh-huh.
We use the word blackmail. What we do have that we could play in the meantime, while we wait here, we could just monitor the screen. We could play that press conference that Jay-Z's lawyer gave yesterday, explaining in detail and 100% denying what's going on. You want to play that, Magnolia?
Yeah, let me get it.
While we wait, now I'm going to have my screen. We're going to continue to watch on the screen.
Yeah, so this is Alex Spiro. He is the attorney for Jay-Z. And if people remember the Alec Baldwin trial, he is the attorney who got Alec Baldwin's case dismissed.
Yeah.
When you're trying to evaluate whether something occurred, you have to look at different pieces of the narrative. The location, where it happened, the witnesses, who were they, what did they say, the details. Details are very important in time. So we start off with the location, and according to their complaint, after approximately 20 minutes, she arrived at a White House with a U-shaped driveway and a gate. There is no such location in New York, 20 minutes from Radio City. It does not exist. There is no such location. We don't know whether they created a location in order to try to get jurisdiction in New York so they could bring this case in New York, or whether they just didn't do their homework. But any New Yorker knows there is no such location. Beyond that, this was supposed to have taken place at Mr. Combs' after party, according to them. When you look at the homes associated with Mr. Combs During that period of time, and even not during that period of time, none of them matches. He had a townhouse, he had a house in the Hamptons hours away, and he had homes in New Jersey, but not at that time. None of the homes work, the location doesn't work, because this never happened. And again, when you really bear down on the location and his whereabouts, you quickly realize, because there's photographic evidence and witnesses are coming forward, that Mr. Carter was at a commercial establishment after the VMAs. He wasn't at a house. Unfortunately for them, they needed to create this house in order to create the narrative. But he wasn't at a White House that did not exist. And this is a photograph of him at a location after the VMAs. So as we can continue through this, Jane Doe does not say that the assault happened at a commercial establishment. She can't. That wouldn't make any sense. Yet they stand by it. They double down. They triple down. White House, White House. The White House doesn't exist. And then we get to the witnesses. And I think at the outset, everybody has to remember that in 24 years, not a single witness has ever come forward saying this happened. Quarter of a century. Think about that. She says she's at the party alone, this 13-year-old girl, and she finds herself in the room with the three most famous people at the party. Just think about how unnatural, how little common sense that makes. And according to her, one of the witnesses is a female celebrity who's just standing there watching the repetitive rape of a child. That celebrity does nothing, says nothing, reports nothing, and in fact, they won't even identify her. According to them, there's an adult female in the room watching the rape of a child. They refuse to identify her. So then we continue, and you look and there's celebrities that she says she's mingling with before. Afterwards, she says she runs out of the house naked. Runs out of the house naked. None of them notice that. None of them pay any notice. For 24 years, none of them has said anything. And so she's just asked in this interview, she's asked, well, I mean, celebrities are recognizable people. Surely you can tell us one celebrity that was there. Just give us one name so that we know this happened. And she says, okay, Benji Madden was there. And she wants to conjure up religion and say, I'm religious, I remember his tattoo. She looks and remembers so vividly the tattoo and the conversation with Mr. Madden. Well, Mr. Madden wasn't there. He already said he wasn't there. His tour schedule said he wasn't there. And he wasn't there because this never happened. None of this ever happened. And you keep going, and you ask yourself, well, who is this complaining witness? She does not come forward with her real name. She proceeds under Jane Doe. There's no report to the police. According to her, she never tells anybody for 24 years. Not one person, not alone in the car for 5 hours at home, on her way home. Not one person, not a diary, not a family member, not a friend. Most people, when this happens, there's a need to tell somebody. We call these prompt outcry witnesses. In most complaints like this, people tell somebody. She says nobody for 24, 25 years. And then we get to the details. And I want to make sure this is clear. When people make up an account, whether intentionally or their mind is playing tricks on them, they can always get that core part of the story right. They can just keep repeating it over and over and over again. This is what happened, that core part. But they're always going to mess up the details. When something isn't real, when something doesn't happen, you're going to get the details wrong because you weren't really there. And so she starts with her story about her friend that dropped her off. Okay? This drive of over 5 hours, the friend would have had to have gone 10 plus hours to drop her off because she's got to get there. If this is real, she's got to get there. But guess what? This friend of hers, she doesn't get out of the car, right? Think about that. She's just leaving a 13-year-old girl alone in Midtown. She doesn't even want to get out of the car. She came all that way. There can't be a witness there. She can't have a witness there because this never happened. So as you keep going, you ask yourself, but how did she end up in the car in the first place? And so she creates this story. She says, I snuck out the window, right? But now we know she came from Rochester. So she would have been sneaking out of the window at 3 in the afternoon in the middle of broad daylight. Never heard of such a thing, defies common sense, doesn't make any sense because this never happened. And so she tells this story because she's got to create a way that she gets out of the house and ends up in New York City. And as we keep going here, the friend that implausibly leaves her there, there's then some pressure on that part of the story because it doesn't make any sense. And so the lawyer is asked, well, just produce the friend. And so he has to find somebody that can make this work. And of course, as soon as he's pressed, they find somebody who they say is no longer alive. They can't corroborate it, and there's nobody to talk to. Okay, and if we can keep going. Next slide. So she then gets there, right? And she has this vivid tale of watching it on a Jumbotron. It's in her complaint. Clear as day. There was no Jumbotron that year. Okay? I don't know whether they were Googling images and found the wrong year. I don't know whether she's just making it up out of whole cloth. There is no Jumbotron. In fact, they didn't even get a permit, according to the police and the city, for the Jumbotron that year. So that didn't happen. None of the details are right because this never happened. If we can keep going. And then she says, I'm knocking on the doors and the windows of limousines and VIPs. Of course, that doesn't work either. If you look at the video, photographs, that whole area was blocked off. We've spoken to numerous people there that were in security. No one could have gotten anywhere near those cars because this never happened. She gets that fact wrong. And you know the whole story about, of all people, she knocks on Puff's window. 13-year-old girl in Midtown by herself. Just think about that. Think about how illogical that is. Keep going. Again, this is Eminem performing in the streets. No Jumbotron. All the cars barricaded. Her facts don't check out because this never happened. If we keep going. So what ends up happening then, and this is important, is her original account in the original complaint says that at 9:30 or 10, she's told to wait there to get a ride to the after party. Okay? That also doesn't work because there's photographs now of Mr. Combs, Mr. Carter at commercial establishments in New York after the VMAs. So this narrative of at 10 o'clock she ends up at this party can't work. They got caught. So they change it in the amended complaint that there's this multiple drop-off and pickup that lands them at this White House that doesn't exist. So as we continue, this is again her account of trying to change the story into this multiple drop-off period to get them at the house to deal with the fact that there's photographic evidence that that's not where the after party was in the first place. And so as this account continues, you have to look at the timeline. You have to look at the timeline. So there's an old expression that time doesn't lie. Everything else that I'm talking about, these glaring inconsistencies, these are not minor inconsistencies. These are not minor problems with this story. This is utter falsehoods. Time never lies. And so if you look at the time, no matter what, this couldn't have happened. It's not even possible that this happened. And this is so important. So again, now that we know that it's a 5-hour drive in each direction, how she gets to the VMAs, okay, we're going to talk in some detail about this White House and whether or not they could have gotten there. And then again, Doe returns home to Rochester, okay? And this is very important. Because she returns home, she has to leave the New York area by 1:30 in the morning at the latest, okay? If you look at any of these White Houses and you look at the closest gas stations that could be to any of these White Houses, you have to leave this White House party by 12:45 in order to get to the gas station at 1:30 to call your father to pick you up to get home to Rochester at 6:30. So remember, she only has till 12:45 for everything that she says to have happened. The VMAs end at after 11. So you're talking about a window of a little more than an hour that this could possibly have happened even by their own account. And she says during that little bit more than an hour, not only does she get to the house, not only is she inside mingling with celebrities, she has a drink, she's then sexually assaulted in front of an adult female multiple times. She gets out of that, she fights through it, she leaves the house naked, she gets all the way to the gas station. She had 37 minutes to possibly do this. Okay, even under their account. Okay, and of course, the biggest problem perhaps of all is there's photographs putting Mr. Combs and Mr. Carter at different places, not in a White House during that 37 minutes. So when I tell you that it's not just that this story is a lie and that it's not true, it's provably, demonstrably false. This never happened. So we talked about this 37 minutes. The earliest, even if we didn't have that establishments. Remember, this is innocence on top of innocence. Even if we didn't have that, according to her, The earliest they could have gotten to the house is 12:11. And the reason for that is if the VMAs end and the drive is 20 minutes, the driver has to go there, drop them off, come back, pick her up, bring her back. She can't get there. And again, this is lickety-split. This is as fast as is possible, okay? This is no traffic leaving Radio City in Midtown during an awards ceremony. 12:11. She has to leave that white residence by 12:48 in order for her father to pick her up at the gas station. 37 minutes. That's the entire window of opportunity here. So here again is the timeline. Shows the 11:11 VMA's end, the drop-off, the pickup, and the drop-off. Next slide. And again, here we are. You see the 37 minutes. This is the 42 minutes it takes to walk. This is the closest gas station. And this is, remember this is a 13-year-old girl walking who has issues, who is maybe drugged according to her, who's just been viciously raped multiple times, who was holding her own clothing trying to get to a gas station that she had never been before. Okay? No map, no cell phone, no nothing. Straight line, it's 42 minutes. Okay? The story doesn't work, it doesn't check out. Okay? This never happened. Next slide. These are all the things that they claim happened in that 37 minutes. Okay? And again, 37 is giving them every benefit of the doubt as how long this window could be. Every benefit of the doubt. But here's an even bigger problem. There are photographs of Mr. Carter and Mr. Combs at commercial establishments during the 37 minutes. They're not there. Even if you try to come up with the fastest possible timeline, I'm talking about no traffic, nobody getting in your way at the door, right to the bar kind of timeline, it still doesn't work. Because they had to leave Radio City, they had to go to the commercial establishments. Mr. Combs is photographed at 2 different commercial establishments with Jennifer Lopez, 2 establishments. They had to go to both of those establishments and get back to the White House. Get back to the White House before she has to leave at 12:30. None of this can work. And in fact, and I think this is very important, you will notice in the photographs that Miss Lopez changes clothing between the 2 events that they go to in New York City. You can see in one photograph she's wearing one outfit in another. So she had to be able to, in this 40-minute window, get to multiple events. They're seen drinking, socializing. She has to change outfits, change her hair, all within 40 minutes to get to that White House in time. And you're saying to yourself, so that's not possible. You're right, it's not possible. It's because this never happened. And then we get to the end. She kept running until she reached a gas station. A female clerk noticed her, allowed her to use the phone. Plaintiff called her father, admitted that she had lied about her whereabouts. And this is a very small thing, very small. But remember, when you leave house and you're 13, you have to have a story. You either have to sneak out and not have a lie, or you tell your parents a lie. Sort of 2 options, right? Earlier, she says, well, I didn't tell my parents a lie, I just snuck out the window, right? Here, she says, well, I lied. See, do you know what that means? That means she's lying within her own story. They can't both be true. And I said earlier that no witnesses have come forward in basically a quarter of a century, except for one. Now there's one, her own father, the person who knows her best. And he came forward too, and he said, you know what? This never happened. This never happened. And his attention was drawn to it. I feel like I would remember that. And they said, but you've got a lot going on. Maybe you forgot this. You've got a lot going on. They told him, listen, you've got a lot going on. Try to see if they pressed him, if he stuck to his story. He said, yeah, I have a lot going on, but that's something that would definitely stick in my mind. Of course it would stick in your mind. You drove 10 hours to pick up your 13-year-old daughter in New York City. It's not something you would forget. It's not something that he did forget because this never happened. And of course, just like the friend that couldn't be there at the beginning, you can't have a witness to something that never happened. When asked, well, what did you say to your father in the car? What did you talk about? Nothing. She says not a word was spoken. There can't be a conversation because this never happened. And so, you got to ask yourself what's going on here, right? And you all saw that videotape. of her being interviewed in the shadowy room. She's holding a teddy bear. She's talking about her issues, her head trauma. She's been through a lot in her life, you can tell. And so who took advantage of this? Why are we here? Why is this story getting created? And I'll tell you who took advantage of this. This lawyer took advantage of this. That's what's going on here. And you can see here, now that this is starting to unravel and the truth is coming out, he's starting to walk away from it. He's saying, oh, sorry, this case was referred to our firm by another firm, so I didn't really check it out, is basically what he's saying. Right? He brings an accusation like this, attacks a man with the integrity of Mr. Carter, and all he has to say for himself now is, well, I didn't really check on this. I got a referral, trying to make a little bit of money, so we just went live with it. Next. Here is again the timeline that he went live with. In the face of this irrefutable, time doesn't lie evidence, he went live with it. And again, it doesn't work. This 37 minutes, it does not work. It does not work because there's photographs. There's photographs. You can find them on the internet of them. They're changing clothes. She's changed clothes. Do you know how long that takes for her to go to 2 events, change clothes, get inside, have drinks, they're socializing, they're not popping into these events. To then get back out into the suburbs somewhere at a house that doesn't exist? It's not possible. Actually not possible. He is for sure innocent of this accusation. Next slide. But you know, this lawyer, he doesn't care about things like this. The only other person he's brought a complaint against for just mere association, merely being at a Sean Combs party, he's already been wrong about that one too. He had to change that one. If you look at the next slide, he got the year wrong. He said there was a party in the Hamptons. Mr. Combs was in Saint-Tropez at the time. Didn't check out. 2 claims, neither are checking out. If we could keep going. And we have this, individuals calling my office telling me story after story. And, I'm not going to get sidetracked. People think I'm going to start saying, explaining he's a grifter and all these things about him. I'm not here to talk about him more than I need to. But there's people calling the office saying, yeah, they were being pressured to say stuff, to say that they were with Mr. Combs. These are affidavits. They're filed in court. This is what you're dealing with here. Next slide. And so this is who took advantage of the woman in the shadowy video. He gives a press conference, 1-800 number, and he claims 2 days after posting that press conference, 2 days, that he has 120 fully vetted plaintiffs, 120. Anybody that does this for real, anyone that knows what they're doing, knows to corroborate, to interrogate, and to be sure about even one person takes weeks. One person. You've got to find out if their story makes sense. Did they really get dropped off? Does any of it check out? Is there corroboration? Are there any witnesses? It takes weeks for one. He had 120 in 2 days. When he files these cases, he doesn't even enter his notice of appearance. He just has some other lawyer file them. He holds these press conferences. He says, listen, anybody out there, just call the 1-800 number. If you can put yourself anywhere near a Sean Combs party at any point, we can go after the other celebrities there. We can make money together. Just call the 1-800 number. That's all you need to do. And then we'll send a letter to the celebrity. They're not going to want to have this in the public light. And they're going to be shaken down and they'll send us money. So it's just call the number. And Mr. Carter said no. He said, that's not going to happen anymore. I'm going to put my foot down. And that's what he did. And I would urge any other celebrity that's being shaken down right now to do the same thing and to stand with truth. None of this ever happened. And what this 1-800 lawyer is doing, he's taking the justice away from this. He's destroying this opportunity and the voices of real victims, and it's got to end. So, are there any questions? Yes?
One question.
Sure.
So for the people that are calling your office, I'm assuming if it's not dismissed, like worst case scenario, and you guys move forward to try and show that everything you just told us, what evidence are you guys submitting other than the accounts that they're giving you over the phone? Like, do any of those people calling you have like emails between them and BuzzFeed or text conversations where they're encouraging this stuff?
Yeah, so let me divide that question into two if I can. We expect the case to be dismissed. If it's not, eventually this will all crumble because it can't possibly have happened mathematically. You don't even need witnesses. They don't have any witnesses because this never happened, and you don't need witnesses because the time doesn't work. Just there's literally photographic evidence that proves that this could not have happened. In terms of what's going to happen to Mr. Busby for this racket and everything else going on, time will tell. But this is how things unravel. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Who is Lex Intelligence, and has your firm ever hired them in connection with Tony Busby to investigate Tony Busby as he's alleged?
I don't know that firm, don't know those people, and the answer is no.
So this might just be an extension of the first question, but you said that there were people calling saying they were being pressured to say that they were with Mr. Connors. Can you elaborate on that, please? Are they calling you to say if they're being pressured?
Yeah, there was a witness that came forward that contacted my office and submitted an affidavit in court regarding this that accounted for what occurred on that day, which was they called the Busby firm. They said they had an inquiry. The inquiry had nothing to do with Mr. Combs, Mr. Carter, or any of this. And the people at the Busby firm said, well, why don't we try to push this in the direction of the Combs case? That's a better decision in sum and substance. That's a better way to go here. This individual refused to do that, contacted my office and signed it, and then an affidavit was submitted to court. Yes?
You mentioned the letters that Busby's been sending out to unnamed celebrities in relation to these Combs lawsuits. What were your interactions on behalf of Mr. Carter before he was renamed in the amended complaint?
Well, after the letter was received, we obviously knew this was completely false and we weren't going to be shaken down, so the efforts were nothing because there was nothing to discuss in any meaningful way.
Do you know who the Jane Doe is, like her actual identity? Has there been research into that on your end?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Because she's been blacked out in the video and because a court has not unmasked her in court, I'm not going to get into her identity. You will notice that I did not get into some of her issues. I don't want to. It's really sad in many respects, and I don't want to get into that. So I'm not going to unmask her here today.
Has the accuser tried to reach out to Mr. Carter before, or any of his camp, or anyone?
Not to my knowledge. Yes.
Busby indicated that there was a second alleged victim. Has he given any notice that he's pursuing that claim as well?
No, and I would hope not after what's going on here. Yes.
You mentioned in your recent filing on this docket that you were intending to file a motion to dismiss. What's the timeline on that? Are you working on that?
Yeah, so we did file a motion to dismiss the day after this was filed.
Right.
The Rule 11 letter, which basically says that a lawyer is not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to not vet a claim and file a false claim in court, or it needs to come down. The way that works, and it's a little technical, is that the court has to allow you to file faster than you should otherwise be allowed to file. So we are hopeful that the court will respond today, and we will file that. If not, there are other things that we're going to do to bring the truth to light. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Are there any witnesses who will be corroborating Mr. Carter's testimony that he was not there that night? Or is that sort of what you're hinting at, that if necessary, you will provide those people?
Yeah, I mean, it's like asking to corroborate something that never happened. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of people that are going to say there was no party at the White House, that put all of these celebrities where they're already put in photographs in different places, not at a White House. Remember, according to her, all three of these people, I mean, you all have seen the photographs, I mean, on the internet, and I just showed you some. All three of these people would have had to have been at this White House together, alone in a room. Just think about that. Alone in a room with this 13-year-old girl at exactly the time that they're at commercial establishments. So I mean, there's no proof better than time. But of course, there are going to be people that are going to say that they were all out that night and nowhere near a White House, and they went to an after party at a commercial establishment, and this is all fantasy.
If this case is dismissed after that, are you guys decided definitely to file anything in addition, like an information lawsuit?
This issue with a lawyer taking advantage of the situation is going to be dealt with, I can assure you. And I think sort of stay tuned. I think the first thing today was to make sure that everybody understands. This is not an account of inconsistencies. I wanted everybody to understand that this never happened. This is completely false. And then we'll move forward from there. Yes?
What is Mr. Carter's account of that night? Does he say he was at multiple locations, just that nightclub, Lotus nightclub that he was photographed at?
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into sort of privileged communications and talk too much about that, but I will say that he was not at any house or any location. They were in New York City. They were at commercial establishments with lots of people around. And this is obviously completely false.
How's Mr. Carter feeling?
He's upset. He's upset that somebody would be allowed to do this. They would make a mockery of the system like this. He's upset that this distracts and dissuades real victims from coming forward. He's upset that his kids and his family have to deal with this. He's upset, and he should be upset.
Is your firm investigating Busby talking to people around him as he's alleged in some of his legal suit against Coin Emanuel?
Yeah, that suit went nowhere, as you saw. And what happens when people bring frivolous cases and run rackets like this is, of course, we're asking questions. I've got people contacting my office telling me chapter and verse about him. So we don't shut off the phone lines. I'm listening because I'm trying to figure out how this is allowed to proceed like this. Yes?
He posted a photo on his Instagram of 3 men at a door of his client, suggesting that investigators came and said that they would pay $1,000 for plaintiffs to file a suit against him. I mean, do you have any connection to those men that he photographed? Do those men have any connection to Coin Emanuel?
Zero. Okay, I don't know whether it's completely false or not, but zero connection to those people. Have no idea what that is. Don't know whether he made it up out of whole cloth. Don't know if he's trying to distract from what he's under now. But no, there's no truth to that. Anything else?
Sorry. Will Mr. Carter say anything more specifically about Mr. Combs? He didn't really address him in his statement, but anything since outlets and internet speculation have tried to affiliate the two of them, he didn't really, in his statement, specifically say anything about any of the allegations.
I mean, Mr. Carter has nothing to do with Mr. Combs' case or Mr. Combs. They knew each other professionally for a number of years, just like in all professions. People know each other. At the music awards, they support each other. If you go to the NBA All-Star game, they support each other. That's just how professions work. There is no closer association between any of them. That's also a matter of fiction. That's all that there is. He doesn't know anything about the charges or allegations against him. He has nothing to do with that case. And there's nothing more to say. Yes?
In the original filing before it was amended, and even after, there's a second, the woman celebrity that you mentioned was in the room. That woman celebrity, whoever that is, has there been any other people that may have been with Mr. Carter or even Puff that night that have reached out to you guys just wanting to know what is happening, just so that they can prepare for kind of even a fight back like Jay-Z is right now?
Well, we know other celebrities have received letters, and we've spoken to other celebrities that were there that night that say this is what they know about this. This makes no sense, couldn't have happened because they were all at a commercial establishment. So I hope that answers your question. Yes?
Was there a specific amount of money or something specific that was demanded of Mr. Carter in this demand letter that was sent to you before the complaint was filed?
There isn't a specific number that has been demanded.
But did they specifically ask for money?
In the demand letter, what did...
Yeah, so I've been asked this question before. People like this, they don't send demand letters out to not get money. That's all they want. Okay, this is not for truth and justice. This is for money. So the request was to sit down and talk about a way to resolve this matter, and we all know what that means. Yes?
Do you have any plans to release the demand letter?
Not as I stand here today. I'm more concerned with making sure that everybody knows this didn't happen. I know there's a lot of questions about this lawyer and who's after him and how much wrong has he done and these questions, and I totally understand that and respect those questions, but we'll turn to that later. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all very much for your time.
Interesting. So that was yesterday, folks. I know some people are coming in the chat. That is Jay-Z's attorney fighting back against the allegations with this, with Jay-Z being listed and name dropped in this lawsuit that Jay-Z and P. Diddy, after the VMAs in 2000, RAPED a female. Sparrow is calling It's interesting. Sparrow is calling the lawyer Busby. He's calling it a racket.
Yeah.
When Diddy himself is charged with racketeering. It's just interesting.
Yeah, he's accusing Tony Busby of basically just running a racket. That's what he's talking about, with hundreds of complaints and different things. So it's an important distinction, though. The complaint against Jay-Z is criminal. Or not criminal. It's a civil suit. But it's important because the civil suit that Cassie filed against Diddy over a year ago now was the catalyst for where he sits now in the jail. So just because hers was, it was a civil complaint, that's actually what really fired up the investigation into Diddy. So, this now is the first time that we've heard of a civil complaint against Jay-Z from a minor victim. And Alex is trying to pick apart her story, say, well, this part isn't right, and so therefore you must not believe anything else she says. And here's some people coming out of the Diddy courthouse.
Yeah, we're back live. While Diddy's in there dealing with issues, most likely with the discovery about the evidence that his lawyers are going to get, possibly his lawyers making complaints against the prosecutors for leaking things to the media. We're just hanging out here talking. We wanted to play the Sparrow press conference from yesterday about Jay-Z, because Jay-Z, look, court is over. His children are coming out. Huh?
There they are.
There they are. Looks like court is over. Looks like court is over. The kids are out. Unless there's a recess. I don't think so. I think that was a quick hearing. How long did that hearing last for? An hour?
Yeah, about that, I would say. But yeah, so Alex is, he's basically pointing to certain inconsistencies with the victim's account. And just to remind people, the victim accusing Jay-Z was 13 at the time in the year 2000. So that's been 24 years ago now. And so he's saying that there's certain parts of her story that logistically can't be true. And he pointed to the timeline that night of the VMA event itself, the time that event ended, and he showed these different exhibits showing J-Lo in a different outfit than she was wearing at the VMA. So he's saying, like, according to the victim's timeline, all these things had to happen in order for this to actually be true. And so it was interesting that he's like roping J-Lo into this, which she already was, because there's pictures from that night where she's yelling at Diddy about something at a party. So, yeah, he's just saying, like, J-Lo couldn't have changed her outfit and her hair and had drinks and done all these things for this timeline to be accurate. So just really nitpicking it. But, again, it's a civil complaint. So what he's really doing is he's trying to influence public opinion in his favor. I don't think it will work. I don't think many people are buying anything he's selling. And if she had some of the facts and details incorrect, I don't think that it changes the overall allegations. And so, what could happen is potentially authorities could decide to investigate Jay-Z as a result. And they might already be. They might already be investigating him in connection with some of this stuff with Diddy.
He also said he's going to seek recourse against the attorney for filing this frivolous shakedown type lawsuit. I don't know if it's a slap lawsuit or, what you want to classify it as, but it seems like he's going to try to seek remedy. The only thing I could see is sanctions possibly against the attorney that Sparrow is going to see. It seems like Busby's more angry at the attorney than this case. It seems like he's thinking this is a total racket and a shakedown by the attorney.
Well, I don't think that anyone believes Jay-Z is a victim of a shakedown. I mean, that's what he's saying, but I don't really think he's gonna get too much sympathy on that point. So, he's just trying to influence public opinion. But the most ludicrous thing of all that he said, he basically made it seem as if Diddy and Jay-Z barely know each other. But
I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, I sent you a photo, Magnolia, that's circulating. There is hundreds of pictures of those two. Look, come on, man. For him to say, "Oh, well, they're not." I mean, come on, man. Look at all these photos.
Yeah, he's saying they barely know each other, and they just happen to work together a couple of times over the years.
Look at this. I mean, look at.
Silly.
I mean, you're talking about partying photos. I mean, they're thick as thieves here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Friends, bros. It's years and years. I mean, there's videos out there at this black billionaire, all suit meeting that they had, that was pretty recent, I think. I mean, come on, these guys came up together. They're friends, they're besties, they're BFFs.
Yeah.
They're pals, they're bros.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. That's kind of ridiculous, man. And you saw Beyonce also in a lot of those photos too.
Yeah.
I think easy talk.
I think Jay-Z and Diddy are as close as two celebrities can be.
So I sent you a tweet, Magnolia, thread from a journalist called Inner City Press who was in the hearing. If you want to share a little bit about maybe what happened. I think the same journalist or the same, I think he's more of like a citizen journalist. He was in the last hearing too, the last time of the bond hearing, putting a thread. So he's there. So we'll get an idea of what happened today. But this was pretty quick. I'm going to look myself and see if we get any additional information. Maybe they didn't even address the leaking of the things. The leaking. Maybe a press conference comes out. I don't know. They still got it all set up. Still got it all set up. So what do we got here? What's being said?
Well, this guy goes to the Diddy hearings and he typically live tweets what happens. So he's giving like a play-by-play of Diddy being brought in. And Mr. Agnifilo, who is the husband of Luigi Mangione's new attorney, is there. Let's see. So Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson, we will produce all evidence by the end of this year. Our investigation is ongoing. And the judge asks how you're complying with Brady obligations. AUSA says, we're endeavoring to get them the information they're requesting, including interrogations we conducted. We've given files from victim 1. And they're just kind of going back and forth talking about the trial date, the discovery process, which again, they had said they plan to get all of that turned over by the end of the year, but with the caveat that they still have more evidence coming in based off of warrants and subpoenas that they issued.
Ah, interesting. So the leaking was not addressed. I'm reading this now. Anything stick out? No, I mean, they're talking about Brady material. I see the word Brady. That's Brady material. The defense gets Brady material, all notes and everything related to their case. Any other discovery issues? No.
So the judge says by January 3rd, provide the court with any update on the motion schedule. The court's goal is to avoid any kind of surprise at the last minute. He says, let's meet March 17th. So it looks like he set a new trial date or a new hearing, the next hearing for March 17th. And he expects them to keep on track with discovery. He says he doesn't want to see any surprises pop up.
Well, I think there will be a surprise. The surprise that I feel is the next cards that Diddy will use is saying that he's somehow being mistreated or his health or mental health is declining while sitting in solitary confinement. I feel that is coming.
Yeah.
As justification to one, either get him moved or two, request another bond hearing. Another bond, because you have to have new circumstances that are different from the others with the bond. I mean, they've been trying already sneaky ways to try to get him bond. That was the third time they asked for bond. I feel like the bond is coming back. The bond issue.
Yeah, I don't know. They dropped it last week. So for now, it's not going to come back up anytime soon, but you know, it could pop up again. And like you said, they could try to say that his mental health is declining and different things. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's just it's what the judge said last time. There's really no way to ensure that Diddy would comply with the rules of the court outside of jail because he doesn't even comply with them in jail. So the idea that he's going to live in his apartment in the city and have his own hired security monitoring him and making sure he's not doing anything wrong is just silliness. It's ridiculous. And that was the best that they could come up with as far as their proposal for home confinement and things like that. He does now have a laptop that's been provided to him. He's supposedly he has a laptop to help him prepare with his court case and things like that. You know, hopefully they're monitoring the laptop because Lord only knows what he's doing on that thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, they're just sitting out here. We'll just wait a couple more minutes and see if somebody comes out. You know, his attorney could come out. Somebody could question him. Maybe he feels like he has to make a statement or something. As far as lawsuits and everything like that, the lawsuits keep piling in Diddy. You know, I'm very curious about the name LeBron James. We've been very vocal about LeBron James and the mysterious things that's going on in his personal life and his own admitting that was at Diddy's parties and a lot of speculation centered around him. Wonder if anything's going to come out of that. He is playing again, I believe. He took some weird time off. Jay-Z, it'd be interesting to see if Busby adds Jay-Z's name to additional lawsuits, which would be even more crazy because it would actually, if that's the case, then the argument that Spiro had that Diddy and Jay-Z don't know each other like that would be ridiculous, especially if Jay-Z's listed in a future lawsuit from another event.
Yeah.
You know, and I just have that feeling that Jay-Z's going to be listed again. And then once again, you know, everybody, the big elephant in the room, who's next? Who's going down next? A lot of names. You know, people do say J-Lo. People say a lot of names out there involved with Diddy. You know, is Hollywood scrambling around right now? Celebrities worrying. You know, removing all and destroying all their digital evidence and evidence that they have and getting a lawyer up. What are they doing? What's going on? So,
yeah, well, that's the word on the street. So word on the street is I actually saw a video from what was the guy's name? Bill Bellamy. If people remember Bill Bellamy from I think from Belle Biv DeVoe. he was on a talk show recently, and he was saying that, you know, the tapes are being shopped around. So basically the situation is like this. These people came to these parties, these illicit parties, if you will. And it turns out that Diddy had his whole entire house wired with cameras. So pretty much if you went to one of these freak offs, you're on video at the party. So I think some people may not have realized it at the time that there were cameras. I'm not sure if Diddy made it known that he had cameras or if they were all secret cameras or whatever the case is. But anyway, there's tapes, and a lot of those tapes were most certainly, you know, seized by the feds when they did the raids and things like that, collecting evidence. But apparently there are still tapes out there. And the issue is there's various celebrities that are in these tapes. And so the people who have the tapes in their possessions, they have gone to attorneys, and those attorneys are now shopping the tapes. So they're calling up XYZ celebrity and they're saying, hey, guess what? We have a tape of you at a Diddy party from 2002. And how much are you willing to pay to keep this tape from coming out? And so they're going around right now and they're doing that. And Bill Bellamy raised a really good point. He said, you know, these people are scared because there's tapes, they're on tape. But he said, think about the people who don't remember what they did. So he said, like, you know, some people may have gone to the parties, they drank too much, they did drugs, whatever, and they actually blacked out that night and don't actually know what they did. So those people, there's a real sense of fear among people like that. Because, you know, it's you drink too much, you black out, you wake up the next day and you're like, oh my God, what did I do last night? And
what did I do?
And your friends are like, dude, you were crazy last night, dude. Look what you did. And you may not even remember that you did it. So,
or you wake up with your pants down. You wake up with your pants down.
And there's people who have that experience more than likely.
Crazy.
And so it's like, if you went to one of these parties and maybe you woke up the next day in a state of undress, but you don't remember what you did the night before, those people are nervous too. So they're shopping around these tapes. I don't know how they're getting away with doing that, because I feel like any tapes like that should be turned over into evidence, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't agree with this whole thing. Like, there was one attorney in particular that I saw on News Nation a couple times. And she was just like, oh yeah, you know, we're the tapes are being shopped, you know, people are paying for the tapes and we know what's on the tapes. And I'm like, what? Why would you say that? Why wouldn't you turn those over as evidence? But that's not what's happening. It's apparently there's like a hot market out there for these tapes, and celebrities are willing to pay the price.
Wow. CNN just interviewed the other attorney that's representing those three men who filed a lawsuit against Diddy. Do you have that clip available?
Yeah.
Listen to this. It just came out an hour ago. Pretty wild.
Hearing is scheduled for today in the federal investigation into sexual assault allegations against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. More than 30 lawsuits have already been filed against him alleging sexual assault and rape. 3 separate anonymous suits were filed just last week by men accusing Combs of putting drugs in their drinks and then allegedly raping them. The hip-hop star's attorney says these latest lawsuits are, quote, full of lies. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all the federal charges that are against him. And he's talked about some of these civil suits as well. Here with me now is the attorney representing the latest 3 accusers, Thomas Giffra. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you, there are dozens of people coming forward. some to you, some to another attorney, but there are dozens of people. What stood out with these three men to you that made you say, you know what, we need to file this case?
The patterns. The patterns. Whenever you have a serial abuser, they follow a pattern. Harvey Weinstein had a pattern. Sean Combs has a pattern. And with all three of them, the stories are a little different, but the pattern's always the same. Come into my orbit, have a drink, you get woozy, take a rest, wake up to being sodomized. That was the pattern. And it was the same in every single story.
And the details that they told you, can you give me a sense of, was there some detail that sort of stuck with you that said, I have to go forward with this?
Well, I think the person who was his gopher really struck me when he regained consciousness and Sean says to him, I'm almost done, held still. And that struck me. That was a powerful recollection, and I was struck by it, and just the rawness and the arrogance, actually, that went along with it, and the entitlement. So that was the one that really stuck with me.
I want to ask you, because your clients are filing, for now, anonymously.
Correct.
Why?
Every single one of them, after the rapes, were threatened. They were threatened with physical harm. They were told, if you do anything, it's not going to be good for you. And Sean Combs is not somebody who runs around with a bunch of choir boys. And those threats are very real to all of these men. One of them knew him from the neighborhood, knew the people he ran with, and knew that these were not empty threats. These were not a bunch of lawyers in offices somewhere. These are guys who can follow through, make your life end, cause you physical harm. So they were terrified.
You know the law better than I do, that defendants have to be able to face their accusers. And in another case, a judge did say, look, this was filed anonymously, but you now have to reveal your name. And she did indeed reveal her name. Are your clients willing, if that's what transpires, to
If it comes to pass, that's a discussion we'll have to have. I think my own personal opinion as somebody who represents people who are the survivors of abuse is there's another device by which the abusers try to abuse them and intimidate them. So I think, frankly, if it was me and I was in Washington or I was in Albany writing the law, I would say any abuser should be able to proceed anonymously, but that's just not the law. They leave it to a judge.
We know that there are several cases going simultaneously,
Correct.
Including a criminal case. Has anyone contacted you or your clients from the federal government, from federal investigations, to ask for details to?
Not at this time. Not at this
Not
time.
at this
no.
time. Okay.
No. But we only filed it, in the last few days.
I know you saw what Combs has said about your clients. Full of lies. These stories are full of lies. What do you say to him and his attorneys?
Well, what else are they going to say? They're not going to say they're true. They're going to say the typical thing that's said in every single one of these cases, that these are untrue, it's made up, it's phony, it's just a monetary shakedown. What else can they do? He's sitting in lockup in Brooklyn right now, charged with these very same things. And he really has no defense other than to badmouth the people who are suing him, badmouth the lawyers, and that's what he's doing.
Your case stands out in several ways, but it highlights men talking about, what they say happened and talking about sexual abuse. How difficult is it for the clients to talk about sexual assault? And how often how rare is it for men to come forward?
Well, the one thing I've learned is statistically 9% of all rapes in this country involve men that are reported. I think it's no different for men than women to come forward. I think anytime somebody's a victim of sex abuse, it's difficult. It doesn't matter the gender.
Did they have difficulty speaking about
the
sexual abuse?
They did. And thankfully, I've done it a long enough time, and I know how to speak to people, and I try to show the empathy and listen to the story and try to make them feel safe, because it's really... They've lost all the power. That's the whole thing about sexual abuse. They take power away from these people. And to get them to kind of communicate can be challenging at times because it's difficult.
Yeah. Thomas Gifford, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Story.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
Interesting. So that brings some insight here regarding those lawsuits that were filed last week against Diddy by men.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Thomas. How do you say his last name? Giffra?
I'm not sure.
Giuffra. So he's not Busby. He's another lawyer. And we talked about these cases before. The lawyers, was claiming before in another report that he received tons of people coming forward, but he had to vet through these allegations and only selected only a few out of racks and racks of people, ones that I guess he could prove.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff, that's how a lot of these perpetrators get away with things, is because sometimes it's very difficult to prove sexual assault, especially if it's not reported right away. And
yeah, this is like decade-old stuff.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to prove, and it's a big reason that victims a lot of times are afraid to come forward, because inevitably it will be their word against the perpetrator's word. So it sounds like he has some information that he's able to prove on these guys, but basically we didn't really go over the allegations too much of those more recent lawsuits, but it was three men and 2 women. Now, in the accounts of the men, they pretty much all had the same story. And I think that's another reason why, he may have chosen to take their cases, because
a pattern.
Their allegations all line up, and they gave the same story. It was essentially that they went to either Diddy's house or a Diddy party or a hotel, some place that they went for a Diddy party, and they were immediately given something to drink, and they started to feel disoriented. And the next thing, they woke up and they were being assaulted, and I won't say what was being done to them, but they literally woke up, regained consciousness as they were being attacked. And so they all pretty much had the same chain of events, the same type of MO. And so they kind of like all line up. Now, we'll see if more come out. We're somewhere now, I think, in the hundreds with Diddy victims. I have to think that there's probably going to be more for Jay-Z too, but we'll see. We'll see if that plays out. One side effect of what Alex Spiro has done with that presentation that he did, more than anything else, that will be a chilling effect, meaning it's basically a warning by him coming out and doing this public presser and discrediting the accuser. That will have a chilling effect on other potential accusers who may think about coming forward. It's almost saying to them, without actually saying it, if you accuse my client, this is going to happen to you. I'm going to rake you over the coals publicly, and I'm going to question your story out in the open.
I'm so like, my mom Magnolia is like, look, listen, in my Google, I just Wikipedia'd, I Googled around. I went back to Andrew Luster. I don't know if you remember Andrew Luster, the Max Factor son to the Max Factor cosmetic fortune.
Yeah.
Well, he would give females GHB and then do the egregious things, just racks of them, tons of them.
Yeah.
But my mind's thinking, like with Diddy and all these people, why do you even need to drug people up to be able to do this? What is the point? I don't understand it, because it seems like they specifically just say here and get, give people drugs or get them all wacky, and so they're not knowing what's going on and then taking advantage of them. But why?
Well, because a lot of them were minors.
Listen, these celebrities can schmooze their way and be nice and they can get any girl they want without doing criminal acts. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like these rich people can get any girl they want, as far as not, with their willing consent.
Well, they can get any groupie they want. I don't know what quality woman would go for someone like P. Diddy, but they could certainly get any groupie, any.
But these incidents are clearly without the victim's consent.
Well,
Clearly.
Diddy's not really. I mean, let's be honest here. Diddy and Jay-Z aren't exactly attractive. I mean, I don't know. I think the women that they piled up over the years are more of the hangers-on type, the groupies, the people who just want the money. Those are not quality women. Those are not women that you write home about. So yeah, they could get quote unquote any woman, I suppose, but I don't think that they're getting quality women that way.
No, I appreciate you have tremendous insight. A lot of people are saying, "You go, girl, Magnolia. Preach.
Well, they're not even good
Preach it,
looking.
Magnolia. Preach it."
What woman has ever said, "Oh, P. Diddy's so hot"? No one has ever said that. No one has ever said that about Jay-Z. I promise you. And Jay-Z even has songs about how the only women that come after him are gold diggers. So yeah, I suppose they could pile up gold diggers and all the hoochies and all the groupies they want, but these are not like
And then
wife material that they're collecting.
April, thank you for the comments. All for control and power, pure evil. And then we're dealing with men on men.
Yeah. It's just sickening.
It's crazy, and I personally think we've only scratched the surface. Again, I mean, these charges on Diddy right here for just the criminal stuff is bad. It's bad, and it's literally there's nothing less than a life sentence here before our eyes. Only way he gets out of this case to get. At first, at the beginning stages, I thought maybe 10 years he could get out in 10 years if he cooperates. I don't think the feds take anything less than 25.
For
anything
who?
less.
Diddy?
For Diddy, if he cooperates.
No. Diddy's getting life. Diddy's getting life.
Yes. And this is just on this aspect, which also does bleed in to these civil lawsuits. It's the same conduct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone had a comment a minute ago that Beyonce needs to cut bait. I was thinking about that too the other day. Now the thing with Beyonce, I think some people suspect that Beyonce could have been part of some of these victimizing some of these people. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people think she's part of it. But I really thought about this the other day because the lawsuit against Jay-Z came out and their daughter, Blue Ivy, had a movie premiere. She's in the new Lion King movie called Mufasa. And pretty much immediately after Jay-Z was sued and that story blew up, Blue Ivy was due on the red carpet for a premiere of her movie, and both her parents came. Jay-Z and Beyonce showed up, and it was like the same day or the very next day after the lawsuit. And a lot of people are like, Jay-Z should have stayed away from that premiere because, for one thing, she's only 12 years old. Their daughter's only 12, and she's like 1 year different than the person who, the victim who sued him was 13, almost Blue Ivy's age. So a lot of people said, it's not really a good look for him to show up on the red carpet at her premiere when all this is going on. And I kind of agree with that. I mean, I think he would have probably been better off staying at home and allowing this to be like a mother-daughter event. I think it was a bad look for him to show up on the red carpet that night. It sort of was almost like a defiant move. I feel like it was him trying to be defiant and saying, "Oh, I'm going to fight this and look at me. I'm a family man." And, I would never do anything like that. And I think he was trying to make himself look good by showing up to that premiere, but I feel like publicly it backfired and people were kind of like, eh, maybe he shouldn't have actually gone to that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people had comments regarding Blue Ivy's dress and the way that they had her presented. A lot of people questioned those choices. So that was another aspect of it that, a lot of people didn't really like. But yeah, I mean, I hate to tell these guys, Alex Spiro certainly knows the court of public opinion is very powerful. And by him coming out and nitpicking this accuser's story, I understand what he's trying to do. He's got several different motives behind that, one of which is to, let other potential victims know, hey, you want to file a lawsuit with Tony Busby? You want to join in on this? Okay, I'll prepare a whole presentation for you too.
Yeah, that's almost like discouraging people from coming forward.
Well, that's one of the main purposes of doing something like that. And also, I'm going to bring your dad into this. I'm going to talk about your dad. I'm going to say maybe your dad lied too, and your friend is a liar, and blah blah blah. And so, yeah, you could sue my client. Go right ahead, and then I'll make a presentation about you too. And he's also trying to point out inconsistencies with her story, but based on our chat and our own perceptions, it doesn't seem like that is going to help them.
Well, it will definitely be interesting moving forward. I do not believe there'll be a press conference out here. They got the mics there, but I think if someone would have talked, they would have talked for now, correct?
Yeah, the family left quite a while ago.
Yeah,
So.
I'm sure everyone parted ways, including the attorneys, AUSAs, and everyone involved with this case. This is a courthouse. There's other business as usual. P. Diddy's not special as far as the only case in the courthouse. This is a courthouse where a lot of cases happen. All right, so we'll continue to stay on this case, give people updates, any new lawsuits being filed, any new drama, any new names be dropped, any press conferences related to this case with attorneys, anything like that. We will definitely share with the audience and analyze and dissect the downfall. We'll call it the downfall of P. Diddy Combs and others.
Yeah,
and others. Jay-Z, I think, is canceled. Personally, I don't see Jay-Z recovering from this. Even with Sparrow, I just can't see how he recovers with this, because you notice also too, Jay-Z, I mean, to be sued, is a big deal, but he's being sued by being, doing an egregious act on a child. It's bad. Have you seen any celebs like publicly supporting Jay-Z over this lawsuit? I haven't.
No. And I also have heard, I don't know if this is true or not, maybe I missed this, but a couple of people in the chat said that they believe that particular victim was autistic.
Oh, man.
Too.
Really?
So I don't know if that's actually factual or not, but I've seen several people say that, which, that would make it even worse, and that would make it even more unseemly, the presentation that Alex did.
Wow. Alex, in fairness, Sparrow's a good attorney. I thought he did an awesome job with Alec Baldwin. Like he literally got the case dismissed in the middle of a trial.
I think we're still in shock over that.
That's pretty good. So Jay-Z, in fairness to Jay-Z, he picked a good attorney.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best. So we'll see what happens. But, we'll see what happens. All right, folks. JLR Magnolia investigates. Any parting words, Magnolia?
No, I guess as of now, the next hearing is supposed to be March 17th. And we'll see if anything comes up before that.
I'm sure something will come up. All right, we cover true crime 24/7, 365. Thanks for spending the time with us, folks. And praying for all the victims out there. If you are a victim out there of any type of crime, be brave, come forward. Don't be scared. And, you know, we feel really bad for people that are in these positions. Horrible. Can't imagine. And I'm not virtual signaling. I'm just literally saying, like, you know, be brave, come forward, and we're praying for you for sure. Have a good day, everyone. JLR Magnolia. Stay safe out there, my friends.